So today, right now, we're going to talk about Randy Blythe, the singer of the band Lamb of God, cries on stage in front of 14,000 people when he performs for the first time after being a sober individual. So that's got to be one of the most powerful things when you just unleash those tears and you don't understand why you're crying. But he says, our music is aggressive. Our music is intense. I can't be crying in front of 14,000 people. So at the time he had long hair and his hair was covering his face because he was crying uncontrollably due to the fact that he was performing in front of 14,000 people.
The last day of the Slayer tour, we're sitting in the parking lot in Denver.
I had purchased a really sharp machete.
Apparently he was walking off the bus with his big machete in his pocket, and it kind of, I don't know if he unlatched it or something happened, he spun it and it fell out and just almost severed his big toe.
You'll see the surgery when we get there.
But I think he was actually using it to clean his toenails.
Random Randiness. Yeah, buddy. Wait till you see this one.
And as Randy says, I walked out on stage that night in front of 14,000 people, falling to pieces, weeping hysterically. Luckily, like I said, I had long hair, so I kept it in my face, and our music is like super aggressive, so just crying, I think the emotion at the time was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. What is going on? What happened to my life? How did I reach this point? So I've never been an alcoholic. I've never experienced like a drug addiction or an alcoholic. But he's saying he doesn't understand how he got to this point in his life. And Randy's full story about coming to the realization he needed to get sober while on tour in Austria with Metallica, the New Man's podcast. Honestly, everybody comes to like that come to Jesus moment where you got to lose weight, you got to do something for your physical health, for your family, for your longevity. And sometimes you think every night going out there and partying, boozing, hanging out with your boys, that's the fun life. But then you get to a point in your life where you have more to look forward to than just the party vibes. And that's what he's basically going on about.
Out with them for about a year over the course of 2.5 years. We'd done Europe, United States a few times, and we ended this tour in New Zealand and Australia. And my last night of drinking was in Brisbane, Australia. And I went out with some friends and just got completely, utterly f***ed up, except for that it didn't work. I drank enough, and I'm sure had I been given a breathalyzer, they would have been, like, Jesus Christ, how is this dude still alive? There's almost no blood left in his alcohol system. And the alcohol, for me, was a thing that shut off the voices in my head. The voices that were angry at the way the world was behaving, that were angry at myself for my own shortcomings and a *hole-ish behavior or moral cowardice at times, whatever. The inner critic was incredibly harsh, and still is sometimes.
So as I sit here and listen to that, it gives me the vibes that he was depressed, he was stressed, and he had like inner demons in his mind saying, you have to do this. And the way to take away was him drinking. And it sounds like he was drinking to the point that it was almost disturbing. Yes, I'll say it again. Disturbing how much he was drinking at the time, like blacking out. And like he said, if they would have done a breathalyzer, he probably went to jail because he would have had so much alcohol in the system it wasn't even funny.
But anyway, I went out and it stopped working. And I woke up in Brisbane on a hotel balcony. And I looked out on the street below. And one of my favorite bookstores in the world was directly across the street from the hotel. And then down the streets more were great restaurants. Plenty of food. And then over to the left was the Brisbane Botanical Gardens, which are cool. And they've got all sorts of beautiful, weird plants we don't have. And of course it's Australia. So you're gonna see weird ass animals and birds. It's just a gorgeous place. And so I looked out from my hotel balcony. And I had a suite. It was very nice. We're in Australia. I've got money in the bank. I'm on tour with F. King Metallica. It's the biggest heavy metal band in history, not to mention one of the biggest bands in the world, period. I've got money in the bank account. My band, I've learned somehow to function well enough, drunk, that I can still do my job. I still had a romantic partner at that time. A long-term romantic partner that ended eventually, but at that time I still had her. And everything on the outside was good. And I looked out over this street and all this cool *T and I realized I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to exist. It wasn't like I felt suicidal, like, I want to kill myself, but I was. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. I just want to vanish from existence. And I looked over at this table where I had set the beer bottles from the night before 'cause I'd been drinking for a few days and I'm kind of a weirdo OCD dude. With my surroundings. So I had very carefully, even while intoxicated, lined these beer bottles perfectly up in this. You know how bowling pins would be, like they're just perfectly lined up, touching each other. All the labels are facing the right way. 'Cause I'm trying to, by controlling my external environment, exert some sort of control on the disaster that is Randy. So I looked over at these beer bottles that were empty and they were stacked there and I realized that they were a metaphor for my life. Because on the outside, just like my life, everything was perfect and orderly and in its place. But just like those bottles, I had just become an empty receptacle for alcohol and drugs. And all it would take would just be a little push. And those bottles would just fall and shatter. So I looked. I was, like, FK. I don't want to exist. I'm just an empty beer bottle, honestly, this time, because I'd been trying half-ed for, like, 4 or 5 years. And this time I took it serious. And I was, like, hey, I have to quit drinking. And so I asked the universe, I was, like, God, please help me. Whatever's out there. I had this moment where it wasn't, like, I didn't have a picture of a bearded dude in the sky or anything, but I just asked, I used the term, God, for lack of a better term. I asked, whatever is out there, please help me because I don't know what to do. I knew then, like, let's stop and try drinking, and a peace washed over me, like immense calm in that moment. When I was just, like, I'm FK'd, 'cause that's the only way, if you have a problem, you're ever gonna get better, is if you realize that you're FK'd. It was a realization of reality. To put it simply, recognizing that I was indeed totally FK'd. So I had this brief moment of immense peace wash over me, and it lasted for approximately 45 seconds. And then this little devil on my shoulder, like little Satan, he's always there or whatever, the demon, it was, like, wait, 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 wait. Hold on, let's think this through. Maybe you just had a bad night. Maybe you've just had a bad 22 years of solid drinking and drugging. It was crazy. It was crazy. I totally didn't want to live anymore. And it wasn't the first time I'd felt that way. And I'd had these repercussions for drinking. You feel like you can't function. And I felt that. And I was, like, whoa, whoa, whoa. A second ago you were all good, and then before that you wanted to die and now you want to drink again. You're crazy. You are crazy. Bro. Some of the guys in Metallica's band and crew were sober on that tour, and they had had words with me, Blythe continued. I'd been getting signals for F. King 15, 20 years from parents. Family, kindly members of the Richmond Fraternal Order of the Police, judges. I had a journalist in Richmond write a story about me, like, this dude needs to sober up. I was, like, FKU. FKU. You don't know what I do. If you had to do what I did, you'd drink too. So I was like, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna try not to drink. I made a decision. 'Cause there was beer in the fridge right there in that hotel. I was like, I'm not gonna go get a beer. I'm not gonna go get a beer. I'm gonna go to tonight's show and I'm gonna talk to these guys. I'm gonna be like, will you King help me? What the FK do I do? So I went to the gig, and I showed up early and I found a couple of those guys. I'm like, look, I'm Ked. Help me. I'm trying to be sober. And they were like, we got you, bro. And my hair was still long then. I walked on stage that night in front of 14,000 people, falling to pieces, weeping hysterically. Luckily, like I said, I had long hair, so I kept it in my face. And our music is, like, super aggressive, so I'm just crying. I think the emotion at the time was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. What is going on? What happened to my life? How did I reach this point? It's like someone had scraped my entire skin, like road rash all over my soul. So I stood on stage in front 14,000 people screaming my head off while weeping uncontrollably.
So like I said before, sometimes in this world you gotta take consideration of others and yourself. And I think he had like that come to Jesus moment where he had to reach out and say, hey, I no longer want to look like this, no longer want to feel like this. Is there something that somebody or something can help me with? And that is where he said the people in Metallica, they weren't drinking. So he had somebody he could talk to and help. And it was just like one time when I was in front of my girl. We were probably dating maybe 6 months or something. And at that time, I honestly didn't know why I was crying. I was sick. She said, I'll take you to the store to get you some medicine and get you some soup. But I never had a person in my life ever care about me in that way. So again, I was like, I look back and I explained to her, why was I crying? And she didn't sit there and go, well, how you're a loser. She was just like very comforting, saying, hey, shit happens. We got to move on. I'm here to help you. And that's exactly what she did. But in this world, when you have somebody that actually look forward to, actually doesn't care if you're crying in front of them, they want to help you regardless of the situation, that is when you know what real love is. And I think in this situation, he had more to live for than just boozing. It says in his story that he had a significant other at the time, and maybe he wanted to get sober for her, actually live a better life, get more healthy, and do the things that he could do to better his career, his life, and his longevity. There's nothing wrong with that. But honestly, at the end of the day, I'm glad I'm with the person I'm with, and it's good to see Randy Blythe become a much more better performer, better overall person, and get away from just the substance abuse of maybe taking drugs or drinking to get rid of the dark side of his life, because it sounds like he was at one point a very depressive person, and he would just take out his anger on the alcohol. And there is DVD footage of Randy Blythe getting a little violent.
Of my friends and stage jumping forebearers, Mr. Jacoby Shaddix, Mr. Greg Pusciato of the Dillinger Escape Plan, and Papa Roach. I just ran and jumped off stage left around a bunch of clown shit, because the stage is really fucking crowded. Cleared a barricade into the pristine waters of Jones Beach. Here. And then I swam around the venue to the side and got out. I did a aqua stage dive, I would suppose.
So as you can see, Randy was a wild man back in the day. There's nothing wrong with him being that way, but as you can see, his story is now he's a sober individual. He still likes to have fun, but he also says, like James Hetfield is one of the reasons that he's not drinking to this day, because when they were touring, he had the ability to talk to James, and James was an alcoholic as well that doesn't drink anymore. So everybody comes to that realization that I have to better myself, and it could be 20 years down the road, 10 years. I had that way when it came to my fitness, as you guys can see. Like right here, I came to come to Jesus moment myself, where I was like, I no longer like the way I look. I'm going to hit the gym. And it's been 10 years of me kicking ass in the gym. And it's been a long time for Randy not drinking anymore. So with that being said, let me know if you guys like this video with a thumbs up. And I will see you guys in the next one. But it's good to see people bettering their life, bettering their health for the good.